Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh.
It would be a much tougher environment, but at the same time, in talking to many of our farmers, they're really anxious to see a quick resolution to trade so that we can get back to business as usual.
Yeah, exactly. How much pain is the Trump administration willing to endure, and also the American people? How much pain is China willing to endure as well?
Donald Trump just issued a warning to American farmers. Yes, a warning after setting their entire industry on fire. This is the same man who stood on Midwest stages in 2016 saying, "You're going to be winning so much you'll beg me to stop."
We have a great economic plan. We will double our growth and have the strongest economy anywhere in the world. At the same time, we will get along with all other nations willing to get along with us. We will be. We'll have great relationships. We expect to have great relationships. No dream is too big, no challenge is too great. Nothing we want for our future is beyond our reach. America will no longer settle for anything less than the best. We must reclaim our country's destiny and dream big and bold and daring. We have to do that. We're going to dream of things for our country, and beautiful things and successful things once again. I want to tell the world community that while we will always put America's interests first, we will deal fairly with everyone, all people and all other nations.
And he is now watching the agricultural heartland bleed out, muttering something about adjustment periods.
Because there's goods that come in from other countries and companies, they're really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in, and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period. And we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it, and it hurt our farmers. But our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen.
Spoiler alert. That's Cove, you're on your own. In May 2025, Trump proudly announced a fresh round of tariffs on agricultural imports because, clearly, nothing solves economic problems like lighting your own export markets on fire.
On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was, and so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not, just one day cost us a lot of money, but we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in, and whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them. If they do non-monetary tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
Farmers were told to brace for impact, to adjust, to wait for the benefits of economic rebalancing. Meanwhile, Wall Street shrugged, corporate megafarms hired more lobbyists, and small-town America pulled out calculators to figure out how many cows they need to sell to make this month's mortgage. What the Trump team didn't mention is that adjustment doesn't mean subsidies or rescue packages.
And so what about subsidies? Might that help farmers out in response to the situation you described?
Cumbersome paperwork. So you're asking farmers to trade in a fair price. And the president came in and put a halt on farm loans. Many farmers don't have a farm operating loan in place. He froze grants, and he's closing up the offices. The very offices that he says is going to help bail out America's farmers, he's now firing these people and closing them up around the country.
It means bankruptcy notices, family land auctions, and kids coming home from college because the farm can't pay tuition anymore.
The challenges of urban farming aren't unique. Large industrial farmers of the Midwest are also experiencing mounting farm stress. Bankruptcies are on the rise. They're up 24%, and a trade war with China is a major reason why.
Drive through rural Wisconsin, and you won't see flames. You'll see empty silos, unplanted fields, and tractors parked in silence.
There's uncertainty among Wisconsin farmers as China raises tariffs on U.S. imports to 125%.
The top U.S. farm export to China.
China, once a top buyer, retaliated with a 125% tariff wall. That came after Trump lobbed a 145% grenade their way.
China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
When you hear Donald Trump say China wants a deal, it just doesn't know how to go about it. They're proud people. J.D. Vance talks about Chinese peasants. What do you make of their conduct in this respect?
If J.D. Vance thinks that he's dealing with the peasants in China, and I'm proud to be a descendant of the peasants, most of us are descendants of the peasants anyway, that's our tradition. We are farmers before, but now we are one of the leading industrialized economies in the world. So I'm sorry, J.D. Vance doesn't know what he's talking about. And therefore, I don't think there will be China-US dialogue unless the United States changes its attitude towards China. Deal with China as it is, show respect to China, show respect to the Chinese people, and don't try to impose your prejudice and biased view about China or about the rest of the world.
And guess who got caught in the crossfire? The folks who actually grow the food.
China has responded to Trump's import taxes with a 34% retaliatory tariff on all U.S. goods entering China. One industry that could be hit hard is farming.
Farmers say they can't even plan this season's planting. Why bother when every crop you might plant is either untouchable by foreign markets or completely worthless due to oversupply? This isn't a policy debate anymore. This is existential.
When you hear about these Chinese tariffs, what does that say to you?
Well, it's really bad news for America's farmers. Here it is planting season right now, and farmers should be getting in the field planting corn and things of this nature. And the president announced these tariffs. Every time he says the word tariffs, the prices decline. Many Americans don't understand that farmers, we are price takers, so we don't set the markets. And many Americans say, well, why don't farmers just, raise their prices? We can't. It's dictated to us by the market.
Farmers aren't arguing margins. They're arguing survival. They're hoping for it.
I hope it ends with us willing to be good partners with these countries around the world and be willing to sit down at the table and work out our issues.
Oh, and yes, how can we not talk about soybeans? They were the crown jewel of U.S. agricultural exports and the first casualty in Trump's economic turf war. China was the biggest buyer of U.S. soybeans. Then Trump's trade policy came stomping in like a bull in a soybean field. Now, prices have tanked. Storage bins are overflowing, and farmers are cutting soybean acreage across the Midwest like a failed experiment.
The prices have declined for the three major commodities that are facing us right now: corn, wheat, and soybeans are all down, and farmers depend on those three commodities to hold on to our farms. So farmers right now are facing really trying times, and the president is going to put a lot of farmers out of business like this based on these announcements and tariffs.
And Trump thinks it's a beautiful thing for some reason.
I think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Wisconsin has seen thousands of acres go fallow. Nationwide, soybean contracts have vanished like Trump's tax returns.
The first time the president was in office and he announced his tariffs against China in 2018, I was getting $16.80 a bushel for a bushel of soybeans. Mm-hmm. That price plummeted to $6. So I'm asking the president, did he really have success in his proposed tariffs on China? So they said the government is gonna bail out America's farmers. That's paperwork. Farmers are time sensitive, 30 to 45 days to plant your crop, 30 to 45 days to harvest it.
Even countries not directly involved are switching suppliers, because when the U.S. acts like a toddler with sanctions, global markets move on. It's a classic Trump strategy. Break it, blame someone else, and then ask for applause.
And there's now a new study which points out that soybean sales to China are down 94% from the United States as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs. And this is a really key point. Trump doesn't even understand that when we put tariffs on Chinese goods, he talks about we're putting tariffs that China is paying for. No, we're not. China doesn't pay those tariffs. We are when we buy stuff from them, which we need to do. Because when we stop getting source materials and components from China, the end products being created by American companies get more expensive. The costs are passed to the consumers. That's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is that China buys stuff from us, but they've stopped buying soybeans because of the retaliatory tariffs that China has put on the United States responding to Trump's tariffs. So they're going elsewhere for soybeans, and the losers are who? Our farmers.
When soybeans failed, farmers pivoted to corn because at least people still eat that, right? Wrong. China canceled corn imports.
Like China's largest food processor and trader, the state-owned COFCO Group has imported more than 50,000 metric tons of feed corn from South Africa and signed deals with more than 40 South African farms to become long-term suppliers. This comes just a couple of weeks after Chinese buyers have cancelled more than 500,000 tons of corn orders from the United States.
Mexico is threatening tariffs of their own.
Buenos días a todos, a todas. Siempre vamos a mantener el diálogo. Es fundamental en la relación entre México y el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Ya hay esta mesa de diálogo. Y tenemos plan A, plan B, plan C para lo que decida el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Ahora es muy importante que sepa el pueblo de México que siempre vamos a defender la dignidad de nuestro pueblo, que siempre vamos a defender el respeto a nuestra soberanía y un diálogo como iguales, como siempre lo hemos mencionado, sin subordinación. Vamos a esperar, como siempre he dicho, con la cabeza fría.
And now the U.S. has an oversupply of a product no one wants to buy, produced by farmers who can't afford to stop growing it, because stopping means foreclosure. It's like watching someone jump from a sinking boat onto a raft. That's also sinking. Corn futures are a mess. Supply chains are scrambled. Ethanol producers are slashing orders. And yet, somehow, Trump still claims everything is booming. Maybe he's measuring success in bankruptcies? Because if that's the metric, Trump's trade war is an absolute triumph. Take beef, for instance. Once a hot export to China, now a cold case. Beijing's now sourcing from Australia, a country that somehow managed not to provoke a global economic meltdown on Twitter. The result? A $2.5 billion loss in U.S. beef exports. Ranchers are furious, watching years of trade relations vanish overnight, while Trump casually tells them to hold the line, as if loyalty alone can pay the bills. Then there's pork, where tariffs have skyrocketed up to 170%, and it's not just the pigs squealing. American hog farmers are trapped in a nightmare of overproduction and collapsing prices. Supply is overflowing, demand has vanished, and entire operations are bleeding cash while markets remain frozen. And so are their bank accounts. Dairy? One of the hardest hit sectors. China responded with 125% tariffs, and U.S. dairy exports disintegrated practically overnight. Wisconsin and Minnesota are hemorrhaging small dairy farms at a pace not seen in decades. Milk prices have cratered, and so have the futures of multi-generational family farms, some of which have stood for over a century. And still, no real plan, just more slogans. Specialty crops aren't faring any better. Almonds, cherries, citrus, apples gone. China, India, and Europe have all moved on to partners they can rely on. California farmers, already reeling from water shortages, are now stuck with high-quality produce and nowhere to send it. The silence from Washington? Deafening. And if that wasn't enough, sorghum and wheat exports have nosedived. Sorghum is down 95%. That's not a dip, that's an obituary. Meanwhile, countries like Brazil, Argentina, and India are dancing into markets the U.S. spent decades building, thanks to a trade war nobody asked for, and farmers certainly didn't vote for. Would you trust your farm, your paycheck, or your food supply to this kind of chaos? I don't think so. Similarly, the whole world used to trust American AG. Now they think we're a risky, unstable partner who might slap on a tariff mid-contract or start a Twitter war over mangoes. And they're not wrong. Brazil is shipping record volumes of soybeans. Australia's beef trade is booming. India is building trade deals faster than we can print sanctions. The long-term fear? That even if Trump loses power, the world won't come back. Because when you torch trust, rebuilding it takes more than a press conference and a campaign hat. What's worse is that it's not just about the economy. Behind every export stat is a family watching a century-old farm slip away. Bankruptcies are skyrocketing.
People who already couldn't afford fresh vegetables, who couldn't already afford to put good food on their plate, are the ones that are really going to be hurt by this.
Equipment dealers are canceling tractor deliveries because no one can afford payments. Credit is vanishing faster than Trump's empathy. Farm towns are dying in slow motion. County fairs are being canceled. 4-H programs are shutting down. And the mental health toll? Off the charts. Rural suicide rates are climbing, and therapy options are scarce. Because when the economic foundation collapses, the emotional one goes with it.
I kind of had a sense of peace that I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to have to deal with any of the bullshit anymore. I'm not going to have to be a disappointment to everybody. I'm not going to be a burden to everybody anymore. And some of the stress that goes along with just the daily grind, it kind of gets to a person after a while. You just wonder what you're doing wrong, why machinery is breaking down all the time. You're not doing your job to the best of your ability. And when things don't go right, it's catastrophic. You just get to the point where you'd even start asking people to tell them, I'm not having a really good day, things are not going good.
And while farmers are broke, you're paying more at the grocery store. Why? Because when supply chains break and input costs spike, those costs roll downhill. Tariffs on fertilizers, seed, and machinery hit the supply side, and now food prices are surging.
We've been talking about inflation for a long time, just how high prices have gone. When you put a tariff on a product, it is not that the other country gets taxed per se. It's that the cost gets pushed on to the consumer here in the United States. That's how it works. That is the economics of it. When people ask, what's the math? They say, we're getting taxed. How are we getting taxed? I don't understand. It means that you're going to walk into Walmart, you're going to look at the product, and the price tag for the product that you want is going to cost more, not less. That's it. It's that simple. And how former President Trump can speak the way he does about what he thinks the tariff is going to do, the idea that it's going to tax the Chinese or it's going to tax, it's just not the reality of the situation.
Low-income families, they're hit the hardest. So yes, Trump's war isn't just screwing farmers. It's emptying everyone's fridge, while he claims the exact opposite.
Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families. As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare. Their policies drove up energy prices, pushed up grocery costs, and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the history of our country. They're not sure. As president, I'm fighting every day to reverse this damage and make America affordable again.
But don't worry. Trump is doing everything in his power to make amends by making false claims, obviously.
Members of the United States Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back. 6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started. I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before. The American dream is unstoppable, and our country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again. There's never been anything like it.
Let's see what he came up with. After weeks of silence, the administration offered a 90-day pause. No actual policy changes. No market recovery. Just vibes and slogans.
Yesterday, we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue on the larger structural issues. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for unification and peace. China will also suspend and remove all of its non-monetary barriers. They've agreed to do that. Numerous. But again, to me, the biggest thing that came out of that meeting is they've agreed. Now we have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China. It's going to be great for everybody.
But here's the thing. Farmers don't want handouts. They want markets, contracts, stability. Instead, they got photo ops and finger pointing. And somehow, that's supposed to be leadership.
What is your message to the Trump administration?
Just stay out of it. I mean, if they would just leave it alone and let the free market do its job, everything would be okay. We just want to work, sell our crop, and have a decent life like everybody else.
It's gotten so bad, states are now suing the federal government over trade sabotage. Farmer alliances are forming legal coalitions, and lobbyists are defecting, trying to clean up the mess in Congress. Meanwhile, our global competitors are laughing all the way to the export bank. America's agricultural dominance circling the drain. In 2018, the trade war cost U.S. farmers $27 billion.
Did you ever think when you voted for President Trump that things were going to cost you more and you were going to lose money?
I never thought I was going to lose this much money, this fast.
In 2025, we might double that, and this time, it's not just about money, it's about legacy, generations of work, the backbone of rural America. And Donald Trump, he showed up to the funeral, holding a match and a gasoline can. And if we want the farming industry to survive, it's going to take more than warnings. It's going to take leaders who don't treat policy like a game of Monopoly and trade partners like enemies. Because if we keep doing this Trump style, the only thing left to harvest will be regret. So what do you think? Can American farming survive another blow like this? Or is this how we lose an entire way of life? Let us know in the comments below. And stay tuned for upcoming videos because the drama has just started.